The Spyderco Southard. This is a knife that was designed by Brad in conjunction with Spyderco. I think it's Southard. That seems to be the consensus. But Spyderco Southard. I like this knife. I actually put off buying this knife for several years. I guess 3 now since it came out. And the big reason is that when I looked at pictures of it, I thought it was kind of a big knife. I thought it was similar to the size of my Hinderer, and I didn't think I needed another knife that was that big. And so I put off buying it. Turns out it's actually smaller than the Hinderer by a bit in several dimensions and weight and stuff. So I put off buying it. The only reason I sort of finally ended up buying it was that I have a Paramilitary 2, which I really like, and I really just kind of wanted a black knife, an all-black knife. So I ordered a black Paramilitary 2, and while this was in the mail, I was still kind of looking around, and I saw the Southard again, and I saw it came in all black, and I thought, well, you know, that seems to have some advantages over the Paramilitary 2. It's a flipper, it's a little bit smaller. Maybe I'll like that better. So I ordered it, and they both came. One of them's going back, but I thought, well, they were both here. I would do some videos on them. I'll do a comparison video after this, but this video is going to really be just on the Southard. So the Southard is a expensive knife. $240 or so seems to be ballpark street price. I think list price is $270 or more, and that being for a knife that is made in, where is it? Taiwan. I would kind of expect it for that price. This would be a US made knife, like the Paramilitary 2s are, Golden, Colorado, I believe, but this knife is made in Taiwan. Granted, their knives that have come out of this Taichung factory are really high quality from other ones that I've seen, and I think this is no exception. I would just expect a US made knife for that price. It's like $100 more than the Paramilitary 2. Size-wise, like I said, I thought it was going to be a big knife, but when I got it, I was kind of surprised sort of to see that it's a good size. It's not very wide. It has a good blade to handle ratio. You can see the blade takes up pretty much the whole handle with no excess, unlike the Paramilitary 2, which has a bunch of excess. And it's not too wide. It's not too heavy. So I really like it. Just going over the basic specs of it. Weight on it, 4.1 ounces, which is pretty good. The handle is 4.5 inches. The blade, 3.46 inches. Total length, that being 7.96 inches. They talk about uses of this being an EDC blade, not so much a tactical blade. They refer to people, that is, as they. That's who they is. They on the internet. Refers to the Paramilitary 2 as more of a tactical blade, I guess maybe because it's bigger, maybe. Has a little bit more reach. But that said, I think that this knife is built more stoutly. It seems the beefy blade, 4 millimeters thick, it just feels stronger and tougher in the hand. So I think it could take a little bit harder use than the Paramilitary 2. Not that I'm ever going to probably push that beyond its capabilities, but I think this one is built a little bit harder use, built a little bit tougher, a little bit more stoutly. So for what that's worth, maybe you get your $100 more out of a few things with this. There's overall a lot of things that I like about the knife, and mostly one big glaring thing, maybe 1.5 things that I really don't care for in the knife. The handle is G10. This one is kind of a medium grippy G10, I would say. I've seen other people say it's really grippy. This Paramilitary 2 is more grippy. This knife, when it came, it was actually used. It was supposed to be new, so maybe some of this grippiness is actually worn off like G10 tends to. After you have it in your pocket, it just smooths out. The other side is titanium, and it's titanium under the G10. And then in the middle here, if you can see, the liners are actually milled out a little bit to help save weight, getting it down to that 4.1 ounces. Blade steel CTS 204P. I am not at all a blade steel guru, but from everything I understand, this is a pretty high quality steel from Carpenter. Very rust and corrosion resistant, so it should hold up pretty well. This one has the DLC finish on it, and you can see out on the tip there, there's already just a little bit of wear. So it will wear off with time. I don't really mind that. I'm intending to use the knife. I think it just adds some character to it. It's comfortable in the hand. It's not too big. It has a spider hole, which you can use to flip it out. It's so down in there that you really can't get your thumb in there well. There's these cutouts here that help you get down in there, but for the most part, I cannot use that in any meaningful way. Thankfully, though, it has this handy flipper here. The flipper does not have any jimping on it, which I think is fine because like on my Hinderer, has the jimping and it's sharp here, and after doing this repeatedly, kind of tears up your finger. So I think this is perfectly fine the way it is. This flipping, some people have problems with flippers, but you can flip this either by doing the push button method and it rockets open, or you can do the light switch just pulling back. Either way, because this flipper, because the knife is on the encased ball bearing system, it just flies right open. Similar, I think, to the one that the Domino has. This one also flies right open. One of the things I love about the Spydercos. The other big things I love about the Spydercos is that all my Spydercos come just razor sharp compared to some of my other knives. So the flipper works really well. It has a frame lock or a reeve integral lock or whichever variation you want to call it. I really like frame locks. I think they're easier for me just to close, and they seemed a little bit stronger than, like for instance, the back lock on the Paramilitary 2. And then right here, there's an over travel stop, which is a little piece of G10. I've seen some people complain about that. The Flat Dark Earth one of this has the titanium liner side and this brown piece of G10 here. I think it's fine. I think it's a nice little kind of feature to it. I like the design of it. So the idea is that when you're closing it, it helps you not push the liner or not push the lock bar farther than it would go. I've heard that some people have problems with the lock sticking. About a third of the knives I've read have lock sticking, and this one does have that. You can see the lock sticks there. It's just not that smooth of a lock as compared to, I think the smoothest knife I have is my Hinderer, where the lock is just super smooth. It moves over super easy. It's super easy to close. So I really like that about my Hinderer. This one sticks. It's not a huge deal, but I've seen some people say that their stick, you can see the lock up there is really far in there. Almost 100%, 80%, 90%. I'm actually getting a new one of these because this one was supposed to be new. I'm actually getting a new one, so we'll see how the lock on the new one is. But this does stick just a little bit. It's not a huge deal. On the lock bar here, this is just some small nitpicking. This edge is sharp. I think this could be rounded a little bit. Sometimes when I'm closing it, my fingers go over here and grip this. Sometimes I try and hold them back here, but I would like it if that was just smoothed off just a little bit right here. Kind of similar to what it is here. I don't think it needs to be quite that sharp. On the back here, there is a lanyard hole if you want to put some paracord through there. It's the flow-through design, some black standoffs there. The blade is a hollow ground. You can feel it actually. You can feel the hollow ground to it. And like I said, it feels very stout. It's a beefy 4 millimeters thick here. Comes out to a nice point, and it has a larger cutting surface than the even larger Paramilitary 2. And mostly because it comes all the way back to here. Flipper comes out. Actually, a bit of a choil there. I would probably not put my finger up there because there's not really much there. On the back here, there is some jimping. The jimping is super not aggressive jimping, but it's more kind of speed bump jimping. My thumb really never gets that far up anyway. I'm not a huge jimping snob, but there it is for what it's worth. You can see it. In the hand, it's comfortable. No problems there. It's a nice size. The pocket clip is back here. It doesn't dig into my hand at all. The pocket clip, by the way, is tip up carry only. I'll come back to that in just a minute here. We'll just look at the blade while we have it out. So you can see there's the logo there, Spyderco CTS 204P. On the other side, Brad Southard's logo, and then Taichung, Taiwan. And you hear that. I'm just, by natural closing it, I kind of tend to push on the lock bar because it's just not that big a knife to get that much hold on as compared to my Hinderer, for instance, where I think part of it is just that the lock bar is easier to move on this as compared to this where I feel like I have to muscle it over a little bit more. Again, it's not a huge thing. It's just a little bit stiffer. All right, my big beef with this knife is the pocket clip. I read some things before I got the knife about people complaining about the pocket clip, and I thought, well, how bad could it be? Yeah, it's just a poorly designed pocket clip. Some of the complaints people have is that up here, this does not go flush with the edge of the knife. I don't really care about that. I'm not going to notice it. Yeah, if you look at it, okay, it's not perfectly lined up. He could have made it a little bit more flush with the edge or the roundness here. I don't care about that. That's not a problem for me. My issue with the pocket clip is that down here, there's just not enough space under there. If you're going to put it in some thin pants, by the way, you can see tip up, carry only. There's no holes anywhere else. Tip up, right-handed, carry only. So putting it in a pocket like these Vertex pants, first of all, it's a very stiff clip. So you get it in, no big problems there. However, these pants are nice and thin, you can see. So that the pocket clip fits over them, no big deal. One of the other nice things I like, by the way, about these knives is that when it's in the pocket, the way it sits, because I always carry a pen in that same pocket, it's not going to get scraped up. It kind of rides along the edge of the knife here, and it's not going to get scraped up like some of my other knives, like this one where it's riding along the metal and tends to get scraped up. So I like that it's riding along a smooth piece on the knife, and it may be a little bit less likely to get scraped up. Also, in your pocket, it's pretty thin. It doesn't take up that much space. Again, kind of compared to the Paramilitary 2, which is wider. So in thin pants, not a big deal. However, these pants here, some 511s, they are thicker, and the pocket clip just doesn't fit over them. You have to really work at it to get it over them. And you can get it, but it's just not easy to get the knife into your pocket, because the clip is really stiff. You have to kind of lift it up. You have to kind of work it over it. I've seen people complain that the edge of this is pointy and it pokes them in the hand. For me, it doesn't poke me in the hand, but when you're trying to put it in the pocket, it gets caught on the clothing. It gets caught on the fabric if the fabric is just a little bit too thick, like these 511 pants are. And this is not even that thick, but I just have a hard time getting it into pockets, and especially down here, where it's even thicker. So for that reason, it's made me go search eBay to seek out one of the aftermarket pocket clips that I sure hope is going to be a little bit easier. By comparison, just as long as it's here, you can see the one on the Paramilitary 2, there's a lot of space there. It's nice, it's rounded, things will slide under there nice and easy. This one, because it comes to a point here, there's a focal area of pressure, and again, it's just not designed well. Sorry, Brad, it's just not. And the edge here, this little piece, looks like it's almost angled down a little bit. So the pocket clip really could have been done better. For the most part, it just needed more space here. This just needs to be flared out a little bit more. So that's my issue with the pocket clip. On the Flat Dark Earth one, people complain that because the pocket clip is not the same color as the titanium, not a big deal on this one, obviously, because it's all black. But that's really my only big complaint about the knife, is the pocket clip and the lock bar sticking, which is not super huge, but you can see it does stick a little bit on this one. Overall thoughts on the knife, I really like it. It's a good size in the hand. I love that the blade just rockets out on that ball bearing mechanism. Super smooth there. I love the flipper. I love the sort of hard use, beefy stoutness of this knife. Kind of a hard use everyday carry knife, I would think it would be for. However, it is expensive, $240. I guess you just have to kind of decide whether that's worth it to you. I'll throw some links down below, as always, if you want to check it out on Amazon. And look for my upcoming review comparison of this and the Paramilitary 2. I'll put the link to that here when I get it up. But otherwise, check it out, the Spyderco Southard.